I did this test a while ago. I updated my results, and so now I'm just going to kind of go through them with you. I did a few tests, but this test is the North African one, and it breaks it down by tribe and it breaks it down by fragments. So 200 fragments is the overall look of my DNA, and then I'll go from the bottom so I can go up. So then two fragments is both of my parents, what majority of their DNA would be, and what majority of my other parent would be. Four fragments would be the four grandparents, where each one of them most likely stems from. And then it goes 8, which would be grandparents, and then 16, which would be great grandparents. So we're just going to look at the breakdown and just kind of see what each one represents, okay? So as you can see here, I'm going to just show you the map of where it says I'm from. And again, this is pretty standard for me. It's majority West Africa, some Central and Southern Bantu, and then sometimes Europe shows up, sometimes it doesn't. And I do have some like Asian, but that rarely shows up in my results for any test. So let's just go through this and see what shows up here. Okay, so as you can see, these are all of the breakdown for the 200 fragments. Now, I'm not going to read all these, but I will stop the screen here so you can just take a look at each one and see, what it is. And I can maybe just go over like the top ones. So Kasem Ghana, which is 17%. And I believe Kasem is the northern part of Ghana, but I'm going to double check that. And then Isan, Nigeria, that always shows up, and Yoruba, Nigeria, that also always shows up for me as well. And then Fulani, Senegal. Now, I don't always have Fulani show up, but it's such a high number here. I find that kind of interesting. All right, and then you have Europe, and then you have now going into the more Bantu tribes down here. And so we can just take a look at these and kind of just see what's in here. Okay, and you can see Native American shows up 0.5% here. Akan, Ghana shows up 0.5% here. Europe and Oceania. Okay. So that's the 200 fragments of my DNA, and that's what the breakdown of that they found. And I want to read some of the Isan because they're a tribe that isn't normally talked about as much. But there are quite a few people that get them because they're in the same region. Now, when the breakdown of the borders of West Africa in particular were created, they were created by colonizers. So it's better if we get the tribes so that we know what people we're linked to, because the people may have been, part of Nigeria, part of Cameroon, part of, different places, because the borders are artificially made. So let's read about the Isan people real quick. The Isan people, or Igbo, very close to the Igbo name, so Igbo, Isan, are an ethnic group of southern Nigeria. The Isans primarily speak the Isan language, an Iroid language related to Edo. It is considered a regionally important language in Nigeria, and it is taught in primary schools in addition to being broadcast on radio and television. Isans are Muslim. The Isans are traditionally known to be agriculturalists, trado-medical practitioners, mercenary warriors, and hunters. They cultivate palm trees and other fruits and vegetables. The modern Isan nation is believed to have been organized during the 15th century when citizens, mostly nobles and princes, left the neighboring Benin Empire for the northeast. Well, that's interesting. There, they formed communities and kingdoms called Igores among the Aboriginal people whom they met there. There are, on the whole, 35 established kingdoms in Isan land. Yeah, this is quite interesting. The Isan kingdoms often warred among each other. Despite the wars, the Isans kept a homogeneous culture that was chiefly influenced by the Benin Empire. And so you see, this shows you how closely related these empires were. The Benin Empire, closely related to the Isan Empire, closely related to Yoruba Empire, closely related to the Igbo people. So the Isan people, if as you can see here, the Igbo is very close to the Igbo. You know, they're all very similar people, if not the same people. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll down and see another fragment breakdown. Okay, the second test run does it in 16 fragments, so this is the great-grandparents. And each fragment represents basically a 6.25 of your genome, which is, so 6.25 represents one great-grandparent. Okay, so let me get this. Okay, there we go. So now, as you can see, for that, it's all majority, basically, West Africa, and then one in Algeria, which doesn't normally show up in my results, so that's quite interesting. But let's go ahead and just see the breakdown of these. Okay, so Bafut, Cameroon is 18.75, so that would be like 3 grandparents from that area, mainly. 2 grandparents from Akon, Ghana, 1 from Algeria, Berber, Timamon, Bangwa, Cameroon, Central Europe, Isan, Nigeria, Fangabon, Malinka, Mali, Mende, Sierra Leone, Nankam, Ghana, Goomba, Cameroon, Northwest Europe, and Yoruba, Nigeria, which is interesting. Okay, so that's the breakdown of the 16 fragments. Let's go ahead and go down to the 8 fragments. Let me just read this about Algeria Berber Timon because I don't really get that very often. Zenati Berbers of the Gorara or Timamon region of southern Algeria. Gorara is a Zenati Berber language spoken in the Gorara region, an archipelago of Oasis surrounding the town of Timamon in southwestern Algeria. All right, didn't have much on that, so that's okay. Let's keep going. Let's go to the next fragment, which will be the third test run of 8 fragments, and each of those breakdowns is 12.5% of your genome, of my genome. And that would be the grandparents. Okay. So Bakoko, Cameroon, Brong, Ghana, Fang, Gabon, Hausa, Nigeria, Igbo, Nigeria, Mende, Sierra Leone, Mosi, Burkina Faso, and Northwest Europe. So that is very interesting. Majority, again, West Africa, and 1 Northwest Europe. Okay, so the fourth test run is 4 fragments. This is 25% of my genome, which is my grandparents. So that breakdown is Akon, Ghana, Bangwa, Cameroon, Burong, Ghana, and South Europe. And that's the breakdown there for that. The Akon, Ghana, and the Burong, Ghana is on my mom's side, and my dad's side is the Bangwa, Cameroon, and South Europe. And then it's going to break it down by 2. Sorry, I almost missed it. Which is my parents. This is my mom, and this is my dad. Mosi, Burkina Faso, and Ovambo, Namibia. Now I find that quite interesting that they say his whole thing can be traced back to Ovambo, Namibia, because I don't find this one in many of the breakdowns I've seen in general. So it's quite interesting. Let's see if they have anything on that. I guess I can read a little bit of the Masi, Burkina Faso, and then I'll read a little bit of the Ovambo, Namibia. The Masi are a Gur ethnic group native to modern Burkina Faso, primarily the Volta River Basin. The Masi are the largest ethnic group in Burkina Faso. The Masi people originated in Burkina Faso, although significant numbers of Masi live in neighboring countries, including Benin, Cote, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Mali, and Togo. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Masi also live in these other regions too. So that is very interesting. All right, and then Ovambo, Namibia. The Ovambo people are a Bantu ethnic group native to southern Africa, primarily Namibia. They are the single largest ethnic group in Namibia, accounting for about half of the population and one of Namibia's most vibrant tribes. They have retained many aspects of their cultural practices despite concerted efforts from Christian missionaries to wipe out what was believed to be pagan practices. They are also found in southern Angola province of Kunin, where they are more commonly referred to as Ambo. The Avambo consists of a number of kindred Bantu ethnic tribes who inhabit what was formerly called Ovamboland. So that's the breakdown for me for this your portal DNA, the North African one breakdown, and I will probably go through a couple of the other breakdowns and just show you a few other things from here, your portal DNA and GEDmatch coming up as